that you suffer from a compulsion specifically about this app, like you're reckoning with what's going on. It puts you into an unhealthy, I would say you feel somewhat naked, maybe insecure, and like it results in a compulsion. And like as a result, yeah, the best advice to most people is to ignore what you say.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just your opinion. And
again, that's not the advice I'm giving to you. I'm not telling you to ignore or that what you say is not valuable. I'm telling you what the best advice I think is to give to anyone that hasn't yet met you.
No, I get it. But see, my response is if we were to play back what you just said and then we were to put it in the frame of a projection, that's your problem. You know, that's my opinion about the projection.
I think John wants
the word projectionality on me.
I think John wants to work with people. I just feel like people are too dumb, and you are not Christ, John. You're not going to change these people. Did I not just read to you?
Jesus didn't change anyone either.
You are not going to guide those who God has sealed. That's it.
Isn't part of his message like he failed in his life, right? Like he committed his life fully, and thus it was so pure. So like everyone should commit their life fully, knowing that they will fail. No.
No, you have missed our recitation of the.
I know. I just see a bunch of failures around. I just thought you guys were committed to it.
Here, let me fill in that one.
Damn.
And you would have seen. Oh, here we go. That is one of the signs of Allah. Whoever Allah guides is true.
No, Illumi, hold on. Illumi, please hold.
You will never find.
Illumi, you gotta hold on. This is a. Illumi, this is a 3-minute reading room, and it's my book club. It's my nonprofit. You know, I met with my psychiatrist. I took McZed's advice, and maybe I am crazy.
It's part of the terms of his parole.
Maybe I am crazy, and so, you know, according to McZed, how would?
It's just a question of reckoning with your insanity.
Okay, so so explain to me your diagnosis and your treatment plan.
Okay, my diagnosis, my sense of you, is that you're on this app compulsively. And that you specifically engage in performative presentation of your thoughts, which I think because it makes you uncomfortable to maybe, like, I don't know, share and talk honestly. The way you sometimes do, like with me in smaller rooms, but, like, I never see you do to a stranger or to, like, a new person. I see you, making announcements, sort of mindfulness declarations. Which would be okay if like there was a consistency to it, but the only consistency is that you kind of push it to the level of annoyance, like troll. That's where it leads me to feel like there's some kind of insecurity, the dominance you feel the need to exert. And I'll tell you this also, regardless of the dominance you need to exert and attempt to do, you have a very striking voice. Like you do draw people's attention. I notice when you say absolute gibberish, people are captivated. And all I'm saying is that, like, that's a gift, and maybe that causes some of your embarrassment. Maybe, like, people pay attention to you, so then you feel exposed. I don't know. But, like, I see the compulsion. And, like, in terms of self-control, like, what would I prescribe? I would say, like, you don't have to speak all the time. And, like, you know, right now you're listening. And, like, I would experiment with different styles of communication than the one you're leaning on, just like announcer of mindfulness persona, right? You can also walk in softly with like an interesting question, a polite little poke, barely even, maybe even just a qualifying question, not like a confrontational, just like, hey, where did you say you were from? What language were you speaking? Like anything boring alternative to your high intensity announcer of declarations of mindfulness. But you asked quickly my diagnosis, my treatment plan, and by the way, not a fucking doctor.
Yeah, I mean,
sounds like
I agree.
Lolly.
What, Illumi?
Kind of sounds like Lolly right now.
Lolly?
Yeah. There's nothing really wrong with anything that.
Well, you just have offered criticism and no solution.
No, that's not true. I did propose a therapy approach. I said that there were specific styles of like more low intensity communication that he could play around with. And like I get it. Like part of the fun of this app is you can go to high intensity communication, and like there's always a spot where it's like proper. I'm just saying like for in terms of my sense of not being a doctor, but knowing you as a person and people, my sense is you need to chill out and like flex your more mindfulness, relaxation muscles in your communication.
I agree.
And I think you sense that struggle, which is why like for you it's kind of silence or this radio persona. And like again, not a doctor. I'm not saying this is actually a good therapy. It just seems to me you could exert some self-control over your own speech and benefit from it.
It always keeps running.
I agree, you know, and I told
get you one day, Royal, and you will be on my block list.
My psychiatrist is like, what are you doing positive for yourself? I said, well, I'm trying to organize a book club with veterans that have PTSD or depression. And he's like, oh, that is a very good idea. That's very smart. And then, so, you know, they like that.
Why don't you just try to get them all like those therapy drugs?
Well, I got prescribed. I got prescribed.
No,
medication.
not weed. I'm talking about like the good stuff, the clinical trials that they're doing for PTSD to specifically treat the trauma. I think MDMA is the one that's like really, really good.
Well,
I'm saying is like
that experimental.
The veteran.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Veteran Affairs.
It's in clinical trials, but it has excellent results. It's in your wheelhouse. You're already crazy. It could probably chill you out, and then you just be a drug connection. That's an easy moneymaker. Come on, man.
So the veteran.
Paid by the government to go dose the fucking veterans.
Yeah, the government offered me $300 to do a magnetic procedure. You know, where you go under high power magnetics. Kind of like electric. I think it's just what they call electric shock therapy nowadays, to tell you the truth. I think they're just relabeling it as.
By the way, like you're probably not wrong because they do use that, and as terrifying and brutal as
it actually works.
It does work. It works sometimes. It can be super brutal, and it was definitely abused in the past, but it is still like a viable technique. Honestly, on a far like lower dosage, they've like investigated other stuff, you know, like sort of little tinkerers with like 9-volt batteries and like little skull caps. They are able to simulate some very interesting brain states based on like a skull cap and the right electrons. You know, just like the right signal, the right megahertz, and the right variance, like whatever. It causes an effect, and a weird measurable effect they saw was they had a person try to play like a video game that gets progressively harder the longer you play until the person, of course, the person dies, and then they put the cap on, and then the person just sort of went right through it, didn't struggle at all, got the terms, it never got hard enough. At some point, they beat the game, got well past where they were before they had the thinking cap on.
Well,
what I'm saying is like.
I told my
surprised that electrical signals by the brain can actually have tremendous therapeutic value.
Yeah, I told my friend here, you know, because the psychiatrist asked me 9 questions, and he said, you know, your borderline personality disorder based on your responses off of this diagnostic questionnaire. And my friend was diagnosed with this as well. And so, you know, he said, so what you gonna do with your life? What's your plan? You're 43-year-old. What you gonna do? And I said, well, doctor, I said, I see your white lab coat up on the wall and your big degrees and all that. I was like, do you think you could just lobotomize me? Could you lobotomize me? And he was like, why you want to be lobotomized? Why you want to be lobotomized? I said, I don't know. This is psychiatry. Do you guys do lobotomies anymore? He's like, no, but you can do the magnetic therapy treatment. I was like, magnetic therapy treatment. All right. And he's like, and we'll pay you $300. We will pay you $300 to be a part of the experiment. I was like, all right, $300. Great.
You're being defensive.
No, I'm describing to you my experience.
A lobotomy. No one has suggested that your brain is a waste of matter. No one's done that. We value your mind. We value your insights. We value your perspective. What we don't value is your uncivil behavior. And that's where we say you can exert self-control or you can medicate yourself into a way that the rest of us can interact with.
But I value the uncivil behavior. It validates my own uncivil
we do a little bit, maybe. There's a place for civility and uncivility. But the public space, you know, for people trying to talk, usually when I find, you know, they don't love
Okay, so
contribution.
Mixed, like I'm filming other rooms right now as we're speaking, and in those
other harmony amongst the humans I know.
In those other rooms that I'm recording, there are green beaners like Marshall Rankin and Scott Jones and Deborah and all these other what I would call elite liberals on this app. And if you listen to what they say and how they say it,
Marshall an elite liberal?
Yes, he absolutely is. He's in the stratosphere. He shares the green bean with them. Anyways, my point is, when you listen to what they're saying, they speak as if like they are the leaders, and what they're talking about, it's in terms of the topic itself, and if they are, because when you listen to them, again, they're literally talking as they're talking about doing their former actions. They're talking about future actions. And there's even hardcore liberals on this app that are saying prepare for bloody civil war constantly and screaming it. And I just think they got no class, no intelligence. They don't understand, the thing is they are the ones who use the term MAGA constantly. And anyways, I'm just saying from like an observational perspective, in terms of like mental health and what people are talking about. I mean, they talked about tampons in bathrooms for boys in the 4th grade in Tim Waltz for like 20 minutes. They're still talking about that and debating it as if everyone deserves reproductive rights or feminine health care. I don't know how they were anyways, you get my point. So I'm just saying from like how people are spending their mornings and afternoons and what they're talking about, there is a group of Democrat liberals on this app that are persistent, ridiculously resistant, totally unaware of like their own joy and happiness and how they're their own worst enemies in terms of like their day-to-day happiness and how they're screaming and every day thinking about Donald Trump. I mean, maybe they're the most, I don't think it's, anyways, that's just my observation. But this is a book club because after talking with my psychiatrist, Dr. Vinny Boombatz, Dr. Kim Lee Suk Wan, I, want to say that I'm kind of impressed with the doctors at the VA. I didn't meet one doctor who's actually an American. Every single person working there is Filipino or some type of Asian, which, I don't have a problem with somebody's like geographic background or melatonin density or how they smell or what they eat or how they sound. I don't really care. Like I'm a
You mean that they were literally born in the Philippines?
Yeah, every single employee that I met at the VA has an accent, and they're not native born, and English is not their first language, and that's okay.
What's usually their origin story for ending up at the VA?
I don't know. They got their big plaques. They went to, Filipino University, came here, did this, got that.
They went to whatever university. I don't know that it was necessarily Filipino, but I'm not sure like how they end up at the VA. Like if you're curious how they got there and you like don't like that they don't look like what you expect an American to be, ask what their American story is.
Oh, no, that's not actually what I'm saying. I'm merely just reciting my observations. I just said I don't care about.
They're all a bunch of Filipinos.
Yeah, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. They're working and they're hard and they're doing great work, and they're making great salaries and budget. Did you know what the VA budget is? It's $150 billion a year just in disability pension. $150 billion a year just for the disabled pensioners.
Well, it's expensive. They got a lot of specialty.
That doesn't include the budget for the VA facilities and all the staff and all the medical device technology and all the fun. Anyways, that's not the purpose of this room.
I would boost up the VA. I don't see any reason the VA should be weak.
Weak? Anyways, I don't mean to talk about a jobs program, because if they wanted to, they could just give all those veterans health insurance and they could go to their local hospital. There wouldn't be a giant campus that's 20 square miles of VA facilities. I mean, we wouldn't need it.
There's a reason that the veterans get different health care.
Oh, there's a reason?
The veterans get different health care.
All right. Well, what would a libertarian?
Yeah. I mean,
what would a libertarian say?
I'll tell you this. I grant you, it should be that a veteran can also check into a local hospital, and that those records just integrate nicely into the VA. But like the government has a vested interest in monitoring the specific healthcare of the specific soldiers that donated their lives to it. So there's a different rationale behind the healthcare system for the veterans than there is for the citizens.
Have you ever been to a VA hospital?
No, I'm not.
Well, the public can literally walk in and go to any floor they want. There are offices wide open. There's no security. It's like it's a huge.
What's so bad about the place?
There's limited security. I'm just saying that the one that I went to was the laxest I've ever seen. The one in Chicago's
There's at least like a door, and you press a button, and someone opens the door.
No, it's not.
So it's an open door. You walk in, and there's a guard somewhere.
Violate the parking, they show up, and then you get a ticket, and then you realize this is a federal.
No. Every facility is a little different. The one in Chicago is high security because they deal with Chicagoans, and a lot of them are actually like gang leaders, from Vietnam. They literally go in dressed like pimps. I said to this one guy, I was like, "What? Excuse me, sir, can I ask you why you're dressed like this? It's so magnificent. It's an incredible outfit." And he says, "I'm in a crew." I said, "Oh, excellent. Thank you." Anyways, this is the Ayn Rand Objectivist Room. Thank you for coming here. We can all read for 3 minutes in this safe space of reading a book. Alumi read from the Quran about Muhammad in the cave. My friend is driving a car. Zed, have you ever experienced reading a book on Clown House?
So you can't say clown house, bro, and then expect people to take you seriously. Like you're kind of insulting them. I do agree there are a lot of clowns on this platform. I'd say the overwhelming amount are clowns.
I would.
You insulted the overwhelming amount of people on this app.
Indeed, but I am Illumi. Everybody understands that I am a rational, coherent actor.
See, maybe I'm insulting, but I think I get equally roasted. I mean, I went into a room about spiritual awakening and union with God, and I was talking about the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, the Vedas, the Tanya, the Torah, all these spiritual books. And then McZed says that's just a crazy person, and that's just how he talks. Nobody cared about what I said. Didn't matter what books I mentioned. I'm just, completely, insulted and made to. So when I say that this is a clown house, and you guys are in my tent, I got the green beans. I mean, there is something about these green beans that people respect, which I really don't respect. And it's not a me problem. It's the way that this app is set up. It's not open for debate. I'm blocked from all rooms. Marshall Stankin Rankin, this trans person over there, that trans person. I'm just saying I'm blocked. So Anon to me is like the funnest aspect of this app, that I can have an Anon sitting in a room, go in, say what I want to say, and then listen to the feedback. That is, interesting. But if I were to,
I hate John Kitover.
Yeah. And I like when people say, "You don't know John Kitover?" That to me is it's working. It's working. It's just so much fun to have some people say, "I fucking hate that motherfucker, John Kitover." And then somebody else says, "You don't know John Kitover?" Anyways, that's, to me, isn't that fun for you guys to,
I think it's funny when they're talking about somebody and you can't figure out who they're talking about, and they're going on and on and on, and then eventually your lid starts to dawn on you, and they're like, "Well, when we have people in our midst, when we have people on this app who choose to spend their time threatening and harassing others, we have people on this app who spend their time," and then you realize you're like, "Oh, okay. You're going to John Kitover?"
See, you can catch people making the most ridiculous thing. But it's not even the fact that people make ridiculous statements on this app. It's that, like, it's what they're talking about. And that's why when I read a book, I really value the experience of reading a book, because it's not me listening to all these woke leftists talk about their woke leftist topics, you know, and I'm filming them simultaneously. So it's like I am being productive. Because I'm agitating, you know, Benjamin, you know, maybe you know Benjamin on this app. He claims that it's like the pearl theory. It's like you just agitate enough, you know, to make that pearl. And I like pearl necklaces. I like pearl jewelry. I like giving pearl necklaces. And so when Benjamin, you know, brought up this theory of the clam or the theory of the oyster, I was like, that's fascinating, because I do think I'm an irritant. And that's why yesterday Pro Lyrical on this app had a room called The Most Annoying People on Clubhouse. And to me, that's just projection, because he is actually one of the most annoying people on this app. And everybody in that room for the full 24-hour cycle that talked about whatever, you know, whatever they talked about. I mean, it's great content, but the way I film it sucks. You know, phone to phone sucks. Like, if you could do a perfect 1-to-1 and just take this screenshot and perfectly overlay it into YouTube every time. Chris, another guy on this app, he has perfected that by using, you know, virtual computers on his desktop and Club Deck. But you know, to me, it's really about like knowing that John Kitover is out there recording you. And if you were to only take the time to actually review any of the 100,000 plus videos of John Kitover's YouTube accounts, you would see the dedication, the commitment, and the hard work and productivity that went into recording really 5 years of Clubhouse experience. And you know, they suspended my YouTube account, and it was crazy. They actually suspended my account over a video from like 4 years ago or something of a Clubhouse room. It was so old. I was like, so it must be algorithmic, because I have so many videos up. You just give up after like at least 3 minutes. You can't go through any of it. It's just so incredibly dense and pointless. You know, it's just amazing how I've taken an entire compression of 5 years of Clubhouse and it's completely worthless. It's got no value. No one looks at it. But I think it's really because of algorithm discrimination. And if people talk about, you know, discrimination and civil rights and all these constant, never-ending discriminators in this country, I, as just a human being, feel that like my mere existence is now being discriminated against by major technology platforms, by the algorithm. And it's, you know, maybe it's a me problem. I mean, I get flagged for hateful, abusive speech content, and it's amazing that it's actually me saying it sometimes, you know, but what I'm saying is actually legal. It doesn't violate their policies. It's just the complexity of how do you define and accurately diagnose hate speech using algorithmic methodology. And then it goes to an appeal process. And then they come back and they say, no, we have determined this is hateful. And it's like when I listen to it, I'm like, anyways. I usually don't listen to it. I just move on. But welcome to the Ayn Rand room. Kitty, Michelle, Mark, the MFer down in the goo. I did buy a voice modulator simulator thinking here. I'm trying to figure out how to use it. It's only $20. It's made in China. And I think it would be a lot of fun to, you know, come in. You can be a baby. You can be youthful. You can be a male. You can be a king. You can be a lolly, a youth, a female, or a witch, male to female or female to male. Then it has a bunch of sound effects like kissing, laughter, cheerfulness, applause, suppricide. I think maybe the spelling error on the actual device. Show up, crow, and time. Oh, so maybe it says surprise. Surprised, but they got it spelled wrong. So, again, this is a reading room. At any moment, anyone can read a book for 3 minutes. It's completely up to you. Mixed, do you want to read a book for 3 minutes? The conversational experience more than actually reading a book here. I like the book conversation experience. Kitty, do you want to read a book? Michelle, Mark, you got 3 to 10 minutes to read a book here. You can do it. I have faith that we can read books as humans again. Michelle, welcome.
Hey.
How are you doing, darling?
I'm okay, and I've read for you before. We've done this before a couple of years ago. I'm not here to read because I'm actually doing my eyebrows at the moment. But I just wanted to say and talk to what you just said. You said, if you manage to have the patience to go through my Instagram accounts and see the 5 years, how much hard work I've put into this. Well, I've done that. I only did that a couple of days ago. Somehow you just landed in my algorithm, and I just went through that rabbit hole, and I came across a couple of incredible clubhouse rooms that I was in as well. And honestly, it's very, very entertaining. Borderlining genius, with everything you do in the background, and seeing your reaction to things that people are saying. I thoroughly enjoyed it, John, and I was listening to you the other day on X. You were live streaming a clubhouse room through X, and I'm on X quite a lot. And I just wanted to say I appreciate you and the work that you do.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Michelle.
Sorry, I just had to call the cops on somebody.
Uh-oh. What was he doing or she doing? What happened?
This is my new thing while driving in a way that I don't like. I just call the cops right away. I just instantly pick up the phone and I call the cops and I say, I'm headed southbound. 69er. It's a black male. Person is weaving in and out of the driving lane. I'd like to call to report an erratic driver headed southbound on Jefferson. Thank you. And that's what.
Rabboni Shalom. Either you're a great driving instructor or you're a terrible driving instructor. I wouldn't know until I experienced being in the back seat of you driving a car with a student. But thanks, Michelle, for that. McZed, you're in so many of my videos because, I do want to try to capture intelligence, 15-second clips. So I clip you a lot, and I mean, nobody watches this. Nobody leaves comments. It could just be bots watching it. But Michelle claims she actually found a video of herself, which I find unbelievable because there are thousands and thousands of videos on Instagram.
What are you doing in the crazy room?
Hey, McSad.
How you doing?
No, I was just saying that I appreciate what John does, or Edmund, or whatever he calls himself these days.
Right, good question.
I appreciate it, and I was listening to it the other day. I was listening to some past clubhouse rooms, and it's just the whole thing and seeing his reaction to stuff, and it's very, very entertaining.
Oh, see? John, your work was not in vain. You have a loyal fan.
I'm a fan.
And he's streaming me on something else now. I can hear. What am I on?
Well, Michelle, people aren't streaming your voice. Pretty much everyone on Clubhouse agrees it's the most lovely.
Thank you.
So, I've been reading this. I'm trying to get to this book. It's right in front of me. It's called The Virtue of Selfishness. It deals with ethics. And, I asked him, said, once, how would you teach an ethics class? I was like, you wouldn't just give a reading list, read the books, discuss the books. He's like, no, I'd sit there and we'd figure out first.
No, I wouldn't do that for an ethics class. I'd probably start with like definitions of terms.
Yeah, that's exactly what you said.
Whatever people. I'd run it kind of like a group therapy. I'd be like, first, like, what are terms? And then I'd ask people what people thought was like ethical or moral. And then we try and grow off of that. Like somewhat Socratic. Just try and provoke and see where the conversation grows while people think about ethics. The problem with the way people discuss it nowadays is they use ethics more like as a litmus test for a false philosophy or ideology. If it violates some kind of moral sense they have, then they say it must be wrong. But
my reel got over 6,000 views. Sorry. I thought you were done. Sorry.
They don't think through the broader concerns in ethical systems, like what we're getting at with ethics.
Right, that's very true, but also...
It's hard to put your finger on exactly what ethics are about.
That's very true. But also, my reel got 6,000 views, and I'm going to put the link in the chat.
Impressive.
Yeah, I mean, how do you... The thing about the ethics that's interesting to me is it's like, if you try to solve one problem, it creates another problem over here. So it's like, it is intertwined with economy, with social, cultural, medical, industrial, military, industrial, banking, industrial, energy. It's like, it's all, there's ethical, to me, the left woke political communication shows that their communication isn't really based on high value ethics. I mean, I think you said once that, essentially we have an ethical problem in society, and that's why we have all these issues, no?
Well, I don't think we teach ethics or ethical reasoning very much. I'd say the closest you get to studying ethical reasoning from like the broad educational system is like history. And then if you specialize in it in college, but it's a worthy study.
History is more like his story. Am I right?
It is a bunch of stories, but
I love that.
It converges into a singular narrative that is accepted as true.
Okay, so I think maybe I'm the only one capable of reading books anymore in 2026. I mean, imagine a movie where a man discovers that, everywhere he goes, he can't find one person reading a book or willing to read a book anymore. And he's the only one who has a superpower to read books. I mean, I went to Chabad for a mega Shabbos, last Shabbos, and I looked at the rabbi's daughter in front of a bookshelf reading a book like a robot. She was going reading, from that big blue book. And
yeah, you don't understand what she's doing.
Yeah, she's reading, right? But she's like using her tongue to
No,
like.
You
don't understand.
She's producing a reading. She's performing it or preparing for a performance. It's like what she's doing is closer to an actor or orator or speech giver preparing to make a declaration with correct pronunciation and intonation. That's what she's preparing for. It looks like a robot to you because you're not appreciating the form.
I just wanted to say I'm Jewish, so please don't.
No, I'm not saying I'm being facetious when I say she's a robot. I thought she was reading, but reading silently, but still using her mouth to formulate the words or something. I'm just making fun of the robot word.
No, all I'm trying to highlight is Jews engage in a lot of mechanistic behavior, but the meaning of it isn't necessarily their interpretation of what they're reading every time. Sometimes it's pronouncing it. Sometimes.
Hang on, do you mean she was davening?
Yeah, she was davening basically.
I'm not sure what he's saying she was doing.
John?
Yeah, I don't know if it was davening per se. She looked like to me she was reading a book, but I had never seen somebody I guess she was actually just quietly reading out loud. That's what she was doing.
Yeah, people read. especially when they shun television.
Yeah, everybody's dressed like a Mormon,
Yep.
and I think it's great.
And by the way, like, beautiful little family life. The family learns to interact with each other with less screens.
Yeah, it's remarkable. I mean, and he's got a big family. He's got, like, I think 8 kids, 9 kids, somewhere up there.
Mm-hmm.
And his wife looks like she's 29. I'm like, and she looks great. They're having all these kids, and she's so nice. And
back, baby.
Yep.
Some of them are very glamorous.
Yeah.
They walk around in high heels. They've got like a 10,000 Shaitalon, $10,000 Shaitalon. They're very, very glamorous.
I knew a very impressive Lubavitch woman who had given birth to, I think, 6 or 7 children, and she was also, I think, a cardiologist. She was at least a doctor, but I think she was a heart doctor. And her husband was like a handyman Lubavitch guy. And I was just endlessly impressed with that woman.
Yeah, I know a very wealthy family in Beverly Hills, and like, the matriarch mind like flows down into the husband and the sons. Like, she is the shot caller of the family. And, that's what being like a powerhouse CPA, mathematician, highly educated, gets you. Like, it gets you in an executive individual who, can do a complicated analysis and submission and focus and concentration. Because when it comes to taxation, if you've ever looked at the IRS code, like the code book, I mean, it's so fine print, and it's such a huge book. You're like, I mean, that is probably the one coolest thing probably that CPAs are doing with, accounting, is for taxation purposes, and using AI to essentially give you your justifications from that massive, tax code book. I'm sure a lot of tax attorneys are doing that. I would like to read Ayn Rand. If somebody wants to hear me read a book for 3 minutes, I could tell you about my lawsuit against Scott Bessent and the IRS. I have a May 21st pretrial hearing with an EEOC judge. I just got a demand letter from an IRS, chief counsel asking me how much I was asking for and how to justify it. I asked for $230,000, 2 years of lost wages, $10,000 for therapy, $10,000 for lost pension and retirement benefits, $10,000 I think for lost health insurance benefits, $230K. I'm hoping they come back, at $100K. That would be nice. Rabbono shel olam. If they come back with nothing and they force a trial, Rabbono shel olam, it goes to trial. Since I've run for 2 elected offices, I've had to go to quasi trial, quasi political trial for petitions. And that whole experience of the communication with the lawyers and the judges has conditioned me to essentially draft documents and communicate. And one of the attorneys in my congressional trial, the guy who challenged me on behalf of Darren LaHood, he said in an email to the judge, "This guy just spews gibberish." Something to that extent. And, it was ridiculous. This lawyer wore a baseball cap to the trial. His arms are all tatted up. And, he had a toothpick in his mouth. I couldn't believe it. I was like, and he made $150,000 at that trial to get me off the ballot. Can you believe that? It's fucking amazing. Kitty, welcome to the room. Did you want to read a book? Because I'm about to read a book. And if people leave, I understand, because people want live experience. They don't want somebody reading a book. But I am convinced that I may be one of the last people alive who can read a book. Now, there's a lot of college students out there who may claim they read books, but do they really read books anymore? Do people go to the library and actually check out books that are 100 years old? Because the last time I went to the library, it was all new books. There was nothing old in the library. Everything was new manufactured. I was like, well, kind of sucks. Can't get access to the old stuff. Sometimes the old stuff is the best stuff. The new stuff is just like manufactured new stuff. It's not like see, stuff in the 1910s and 20s was like new experience, new discovery, new research. And now everything they reproduce, it's just like reruns. Kitty, did you want to come up? Because I'm about to read Ayn Rand for 3 minutes and clip it on YouTube in 3-minute increments. We are on page 26. Welcome to the book club, Kitty. Meow. Meow. You know how a cat says hello, Kitty? It goes like this. Meow. Okay, this is Ayn Rand. Oh my God, Kitty. If you don't come up this time, I'm giving up. Okay, I'm giving up on you. Doesn't work. This is The Virtue of Selfishness by Ayn Rand, read by mayoral candidate John Kitover. Go to mayorkitover.com or johnkitoverchicago.com. This is Ayn Rand, page 26. The Objectivist Ethics, The Virtue of Selfishness. Man cannot survive like an animal by acting on the range of the moment. An animal's life consists of a series of separate cycles, repeated over and over again, such as the cycle of breeding its young or of storing food for the winter. An animal's consciousness cannot integrate its entire lifespan. It can carry just so far, then the animal has to begin the cycle all over again. With no connection to the past, man's life is a continuous whole. For good or evil, every day, year, and decade of his life holds the sum of all the days behind him. He can alter his choices. He is free to change the direction of his course. He is even free, in many cases, to atone for the consequences of his past, but he is not free to escape them, nor to live his life with impunity on the range of the moment like an animal or a playboy or a thug. If he is to succeed at the task of survival, if his actions are not to be aimed at his own destruction, man has to choose his course, his goals, his values in the context and terms of a lifetime. No sensations, percepts, urges, or instincts can do it. Only a mind can. Such is the meaning of the definition, which is required for man's survival, qua man. It does not mean a momentary or a merely physical survival. It does not mean the momentary physical survival of the mindless brute, waiting for another brute to crush his skull. It does not mean the momentary physical survival of a crawling aggregate of muscles who is willing to accept any terms, obey any thug, and surrender any values for the sake of what is known as survival at any price, which may or may not last a week or a year. Man's survival qua man means the terms, methods, conditions, and goals required for the survival of a rational being through the whole of his lifespan and all those aspects of existence which are open to his choice. Man cannot survive as anything but man. He can abandon his means of survival, his mind. He can turn himself into a subhuman creature, and he can turn his life into a brief span of agony.
be in the earth and operate in our functions in its proper perspective, but moreover, prioritizing his presence over everything. With that, I'm going to yield my mic. I thank you for allowing me to share.
Having a leading coefficient have a negative value when you could have buried the negative kind of thing. And now I'm kind of in doubt if that was supposed to be a negative all along, or, but if I see, I'm saying, like, whatever the thing is that you're going to do in math. And so we're just using it as an example to, not because I care, just because I know somebody else might. And if you don't hear it from me, I'm literally being paid to tell you the kind of things that will or will not fly in the industry and in school, So it's like, that's what you're simulating. So yeah, it's a perspective, but there's a better probability that I have the correct perspective. Like that's what you're getting paid to do. People imagine them coming to you and you're a lawyer and you're teaching them law and you're not telling them about what's happening out in the real industry. Like, is it just a perspective problem? You know what I mean?
Well, that's kind of the real dilemma in my mind would be, like, let's say you had a student who, just for whatever reason, is refusing to do it the right way, but they're kind of getting it right, like they're smart. But maybe, the classic thing would be like somebody who's acing the test but not turning the homework in or something. Yeah. And you have a stated policy about how much of the grade, but but then you learn, like, well, this person is, maybe has some issues at home, or they have to, like, they don't have the time, they have to take care of their brothers and sisters. You start learning these things, and you start thinking, like, well, what's the goal here really? Is the goal compliance, or is the goal, like, understanding? And if they can demonstrate understanding in a way,
right?
Like, are we? Then the classic thing would be like, well, it's not fair to the other students if I give this kid a break. But then it's like, well, I don't know, maybe the policy should have included alternative ways of demonstrating understanding. Like, maybe what we need is a little more diversity in how. So that's the kind of thing that I actually anticipate being, like, a real world issues for a teacher. And so you have a kid who, just some weird gothy kid who always has to scribble on their stuff, and you could just there's another one, I'm not accepting that. But then you could literally be, like, ignoring the fact that they're kind of getting their shit right.
Right.
I would hope I'm the kind of person who's flexible enough to kind of see through that, but still, it's really important just to teach these kids, like, yeah, you gotta sign your name. You gotta like put the answers in the right spot. You gotta presentation does matter.
You're telling them early on what matters in your industry, and to some extent your little fiefdom, and, like, think about like another example of that would be, let's say you're working on Mersenne primes or something, or something. Probably a better example is something that's going to be polynomial heavy, right? Like a Fermat thing or something, and you have a descending degree polynomial and you don't put it in descending degree. Like, we all know, anybody who's ever done any amount of math would know that if you see something that's not in descending degree, that it was either lazy or they don't know. It's the equivalent of mispronouncing the name of a term in your industry, and we all do that, right? But it's embarrassing when you mispronounce it, because, oh man, you've only read about that, you've never used it in the fields, kind of thing, right? It's that kind of stuff, and it's like, you don't want to tip your hand if you don't have to. You don't, especially if you already got stigmas about you. It could be race, could be gender, could be your name, could be whatever, could be you're not from the country, right? Could be whatever it is that's already working against you, and then you make somebody pay extra attention to you. It's like, just probably not the best thing you want to do if it's a negative thing, just and you're letting people be aware of it. They can make the decision they want after, but you got to point it out. And if you, like everything's reward and punishment. You have very few options in a classroom to be able to reinforce something that you think is of note that they should know.
We'll talk more about a religion, but since you
not calling attention to yourself is an interesting concept, because some people would be like, well, of course you want to call attention to yourself, but you want for your work, not because
children, and she was also
you're late, or because you were in a silly hat, or because you're because you can't write your name legibly, or
other people will register their different type
good ways to call attention to yourself.
because you don't like.
no matter how you manifest your values.
Except we live in the there's no bad news. What's the term?
No better doing it.
Right. What's up, Romero?
Yo, what's going on?
I was just listening to some bad Benjamin points earlier. Talking about not sucking. Benjamin was showing me how to suck. He's like, this is how you do it. Grab it by the ears, let it go. Nah.
It's the opposite of sucking. You have to be the one who has your ears grabbed.
Damn.
Really?
Yes.
Think about it.
I don't know if that's a truism.
Well, how can you be the sucker if you're not having your ears grabbed? You're the suckee.
I can think of some ways.
Oh, I'd like to see. Just of educational purposes only, of course. And
I'm sorry, dog. Did I disturb you? I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. I forgot about you. The dog is choosing the high ground again. That's all she does. I took a picture yesterday of her choosing the high ground.
you missed
What's
Andy
that?
Scher. Romero missed Andy Scher.
Sure he'll
Are
get
you-
over it.
Are you here, Romero?
Yeah, what's up?
He's got an image in his images that shows his big, hairy, white wiener on his love sack.
I think
It's true.
the wiener part is the stretch. I mean,
Well, a dog is a
white and
wiener.
hairy.
A dog is a wiener, right?
Is a dog a wiener? It's not a wiener.
Yes.
That's for
I
sure.
don't think so.
No, like it would have to be like a what's that breed of dogs?
Yeah,
They're really long.
The little long ones, whatever they're called.
Yeah,
Dash hounds.
dash hounds with their little stubby legs.
More
He's
commonly
got a
known as a hot dog
really
gunner.
He's got a really big-looking dash hound.
I don't know about that, but
Is it
okay.
though?
I think the correct name is hot dog dog.
I mean, like that's a perfect example. That breed is a perfect example of everything that's wrong with eugenics.
They were bred for a purpose. They're a proud breed.
Speaking of eugenics, where did Benjamin go?
He might have felt embarrassed. Maybe can he feel embarrassed?
No.
That is hilarious. Benjamin never be embarrassed. What would you have to be embarrassed about?
Yeah, like I wonder, like, does he ever feel shame? Can he feel shame?
I'm not sure.
I
Let's
think
bring
he
up
rebels.
John.
He rebels in it.
John has a lot of qualities that are similar to, not John. I mean Aleister Crowley. He has a lot of Benjamin viewpoints. I don't know if Benjamin's ever heard them before, but it's like you guys share a lot. It's like you guys get bagels in the morning and discuss these things. It's like a lot of. I was like, oh my gosh, it's Benjamin straight up. What's up, sir?
Yeah, in a room earlier, I think it was Romero who was saying, like, maybe it wasn't you, Romero, but somebody was saying that the problem is profits. That, this quarterly
Maximizing profits.
maximizing profits is the problem.
If you're going to quote me correctly.
Okay, so maximizing not necessarily.
Maximizing profits.
maximizing profits, not necessarily trying to grow quarterly profits consistently.
Right.
You know, and it's like, so, but what does that mean? Like, what industries, what activities are being done to increase and maximize profit that you object to?
This is in line.
Give me a second. I'm eating sweetbread.
And again, what Romero was talking about was context to what, let's talk about MAGA and let's talk about Donald Trump. And so Romero brought this up in that context.
I'll break it down for you. Just about every American evil, from colonialism, genocide, slavery, Jim Crow, the sort of the apartheid system of gender in America in the early 20th century, that still kind of is there, very much there. The polluting of the environment, the destruction of the environment, the polluting and destruction of people's health, all of those stem from maximizing profit, right? And it's if you spend like 5 minutes thinking about it, right, I think you'll get it, that all of those were motivated by making more money, more and more and more. So like when you go to McDonald's, you think you're eating a hamburger. I mean, you are in theory, but that meat is like as dead gets, right? They
Wait, Romero, before we go through the hamburger meat, Romero, hello?
It's so full of bacteria that they have to dunk it in a vat of ammonia, and when it comes out, it's this gray mass that they then spray paint brown and flavor. Right, like McDonald's is the antithesis of healthy eating, and that is the basic model of the United States: franchise, maximize profit, cut corners. What? How can you nickel and dime your customers? How can you give them something less healthy to make more profit?
Okay, so you started off by making a list of grievances. It was kind of a lengthy list, and I wouldn't be able to recite them back to you because, most people can't even remember 3 variables, and you kind of said like maybe 5 or 6 things, and that was in the context of maximizing profits, and maximization of profits is responsible for Jim Crow. It's responsible for immigration rights. What was the whole list again, Romero?
So the genocide of the indigenous people, right, was to maximize the amount of land that they had to colonize. The genocide in the Americas in general was to maximize the amount of land and gold and all that and resources. So that's maximizing the amount of profit that you get out of that land. Slavery, quite literally, you steal people from one land and force them to work at another land for no pay, right? You treat them like cattle, you breed them like cattle. All of that is to maximize your profit. Like that's what the South was so pissed about, that all of a sudden they couldn't have free labor, right? So that would cut into their profits. And same with Jim Crow. Same with every sort of gross American problem goes back to this idea of maximizing profit. You may not see it that way, but like if you think about it, it's there. Oh.
So, in terms of maximizing profit, you clean your house, right? Like you go to the bank, you go to the gym, you go to the doctor. You are essentially, putting in all these variables into yourself and pointing them out and engaging with all these variables in reality. And so maximization of profit, to me, just seems like efficiency and productivity pushed to its limits within legal, moral, ethical bounds. And you're suggesting that this maximization of profit has transcended above what we would call normative ethics and morals and human behavior and resulted in these catastrophes.
Well, my thesis is that capitalism is built on immoral behavior. It's built on slavery. It's built on the destruction of the environment. Because it's you have to have infinite growth, right? And that's not possible in a sort of limited system like the planet Earth. So honestly, capitalism at its core breeds all of the human evils in a lot of ways. And the destruction that we see in the world right now is in a lot of parts on behalf of like maximizing somebody's profit, whether it be the people that make all the war stuff, the oil companies, right? So like taxes, right? H&R Block exists. It's propped up by the government. It shouldn't exist. They could just send you a receipt. Be like, hey, this is how much you owe. Right? But they create an industry, a middleman, that you have to pay into. That's, you know, if I was being snarky, I'd say that's DEI for corporations. So it's in terms of, there's only so much that you can, so many corners you can cut when it starts becoming harmful, right? Like the Pinto. Apparently, with the Pinto, the Ford Pinto, they figured out that it was just easier to pay out any people that died, right? And all the lawsuits it was better to pay the lawsuits than to change the design, to revamp the design. Right? That's maximization of profits. Right? So, and if you're going to say that there's a moral component to that, I would say clearly it's not. There's no moral component to the maximization of profit when it comes to design, to how business is done in the United States. So it's the reason why pay has flatlined from the 70s to now. But the people at top have gone from making 70% more than their lowest paid employee to like 300 to 700 times more than their lowest paid employee. Schools, right now they hire they hire people as contractors instead of employees, so they don't have to pay them health insurance. All these things